Hello, hello, and welcome back. Thank you for being here either for the first time or anytime at all. So, what if you have so many ideas in your head and you don't know where to start with your writing, right? I think that when I made the decision to decide to really devote time to my writing, it's like all of a sudden I felt this pressure of what do you want to focus on? So what I realized is, holy smokes, you have too many things that you've started, talking to myself, and where are you gonna go with it, right? So I want to talk about that because I think that happens sometimes if you're creative or if you have multiple interests. So I want to talk a little bit about what I did and sort of how I figured out where to go with things to where I didn't feel like I was abandoning anything, but I also felt like I had some direction. So there's really, in my opinion, three things that you can do in this situation. And what the situation is you've got a lot of ideas. What do you do? So the first thing is acknowledge that that's okay. Write them down. So one of the things that I do, and I do this on my phone in my notebook app, and I also physically take one of these like skinny notebooks around because they just stick right in my bag. Super skinny, easy. Remind me that it's for like lists and stuff. And I always if an idea comes to my mind, whether that's a new idea or expanding on an idea that I'm already sort of playing with or a project I'm working on, I write it down. If I actually sleep with this next to my bed. And if an idea comes to me in the middle of the night or right when I wake up, I write it down. And I think that what that does is getting it out of your head onto a piece of paper or a note or whatever the case is. It's not taking up space there, trying to hold on. And I don't know if that's crazy. Like these ideas are like just holding on in my brain. I don't know, but it really helps me. So the first thing I'd say is when your brain seems cluttered with ideas, first of all, good problem to have, right? Hopefully. But when that starts to happen, just get them out, write them down, put them down. So that's the first thing. Get them the heck out of your brain on paper. Now, give yourself a little bit of grace because not every idea is going to be the perfect idea. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been waking up after dreams of having good ideas. And sometimes I'll wake up after a nightmare and I will feel like I could literally write some kind of like horror film. But other times I wake up and I'm like, oh, that would be a really great story. Or, oh, that'd be a great, like, what a funny idea or whatever. And sometimes they're not great. So the other day I actually woke up and I said to Jason, my husband, I said, oh my gosh, I had this idea. It was so weird. And I start to describe to him this story in my head. And he goes, you do realize that you literally just described Tremors meets Paul Blart Mall Cop, right? I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't the best idea. So just get the ideas out there and then do with them what you will later. That one was kind of crossed off the list. So don't worry, it's not going to be released anytime soon. So the second thing I would say is once you have those ideas out, put them into categories. And I think that once you have a couple of ideas, no big deal. But once you start to have so many ideas and so many things going on, it's going to feel like a big puddle of mess if you don't sort them. So my suggestion as tip number 2 is to take those ideas and sort them into the type of work that it is. So for me, in my mind, and I'll tell you in a second what I'm working on, I had to put these into these following categories. Children's lit, because I'm working on some kids' books. So I had to put that as one category. The second category was fiction. The third category was nonfiction. And the fourth category was poetry, because I'm working on stuff in all of those. And so if I don't start to separate them in my head, when an idea comes up, all of a sudden I'm going to lose the idea or get distracted by it or whatever the case is. But instead, I'm going to write it down and I'm going to put it in this category. So that's the second thing, is put it in a category so you can start to you have this like mental filing cabinet in your head. So, or I do. I don't know if that's crazy. So that's the second thing I'd say. And the last thing I'd say as a tip, if you feel like you have too many ideas and too much stuff going on, is pick one to just kind of channel your energy into the best that you can. And what I mean by that is, don't start 17 different projects and do 100 words here and 2,000 words there and just never finish anything. Because I think that there's something to be said about actually completing a project and feeling that satisfaction. So it's okay to every once in a while have ideas and jot them down, or here's a great note, or I want to make sure I include that. That's awesome. And I think that's part of planning and everything. but it's so important to be able to try to focus. And so that's my third tip on the cluttered brain of ideas when it comes to writing, is to go ahead and focus on one of the many, many brilliant ideas that you might have. So just to give you an example of like my brain and what's going on. I'm actually in all 4 categories. I have projects that I've either started or I've worked on, or I actually even rebooted up an old computer from some work I started 10 years ago. Super weird. So I'm kind of like sorting through all of this in my mental filing cabinet. And the first category is children's books, and that's actually the category that I decided to start with just because I was really excited about the project. I'm working on it with my mom, and so I'm working on the first thing. We just completed the first one, so I'm going to be announcing some self-publishing on that. I've sort of decided which books and which projects I want to self-publish and which projects that I'd like to actually query and try to find an agent on, so 2 sides. But on the self-publishing side, the children's books, the series that I'm working on, I had all of these different ideas, and my mom is an amazing artist. I am not. She's very talented, watercolor, pastel, anything. So she's been putting together these watercolor paintings for her grandkids, so my kiddo, and they're beautiful. And I thought, God, I'd love a way to be able to take that art and incorporate that into a story. So I'm doing a little series, and it's a 4-part series, and it's kind of connecting 2 things that I'm really excited about. One is the beautiful art that my mom has done. So that's going to be in there. And the second part is poetry. And I want each of the books to have a different type of poetry that can be introduced in the classrooms, or just to kind of let them experience poetry. So it is putting me in sort of this like going back 15 years to taking poetry classes as an undergrad. But it's been a great challenge for me. And so I'm trying to play with those. And so some of them I'm doing in haiku, some I'm doing as sonnets, so 6 different types of sonnets. Some I'm doing as limerick, which is really fun. Some I'm doing as free verse. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I think doing that project with my mom has been great, just because it kind of gives me like a little thought partner on it and things like this. So we have 4 books that are in that process, and we just finished the first one. I'm just trying to figure out what our plan is on the self-publishing launch. The second children's book series that I'm working on, that I've just started to kind of dabble in, because I'm just kind of staying in that kid realm for just a second here, is with dealing with time travel, and basically it's Logan's time travel adventures. And so I'm kind of playing with some really fun things there. And so that's where I'm starting. I'm starting with my children's books because I've had them in my brain for a long time, and I just want to get them out there. The second category, the fiction, is taking me a little longer, so I've kind of shelved that a little bit. And I'm doing a historical fiction, sort of a women's piece, and focused on women and female relationships, and just trauma and things that people go through and that sort of thing. Also a coming of age story. So I have some fiction stuff that I've been really excited about for the last couple of years that I'm finally going to work on after I get the kids lit going. And then the third category is some nonfiction that so far I've been blessed to where I co-authored and contributed to a nonfiction book that is on the shelf here somewhere, but and it was I was just a contributor on that, but it's Winning Sales Attitudes, and I did that with Joe Bizzello, who's fabulous. And so it was a great experience being able to do that. And it actually got me really going with some of my nonfiction writing. So I have a couple of nonfiction books that I'm trying to finish up, but I've shelved them because I'm following rule number 3 for myself. And some of them are nonfiction based on healing, mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, personal experiences. And I'm doing a lot of research. And the other one is just something I've been doing as my career for the last 10 years. And so it's based in insurance. So don't fall asleep. Insurance can be interesting. And then the last is just poetry. And I enjoy it. And so I don't know if I'm any good at it, which is why I'm excited to start going to some workshops and stuff. So again, if I was working on all of these things at once, like committed to all of them at once, I think I'd probably go a little crazy and finish nothing. But I followed my own made up rules. And I said, I'm going to write down any ideas that come to my mind. I'm going to file them and organize them so it makes sense. And then I'm going to stay committed to what lane I'm focused on at the time that I'm focused. So I hope that helps. That was just 3 ideas on how to handle the many, many different things that are going on in your brain as a writer. And for more tips on writing or reading or books or ideas or anything, please hit the subscribe button. I would love it. And any comments or thoughts or things you might want to talk about in the future, put them in the comments as well. I'm new here, folks. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.